Εξομολογήστε το Κύριο ότι αγαθός, αλληλούια.
Ότι στον αιώνα το έλεος αυτού, αλληλούια.
How are you? You well, yeah? Yes, how are you? I heard you were having a conversation. I'm good. I'll leave it there. About a disagreement with Apostle Paul and James. Hey, how are you?
Well done.
God bless you. Thank you. I heard you talking to some brothers last week.
Yeah. So this incident at Antioch, you know about this. Yeah? It's not something which is surprising. Biblical scholars all know this. You can go to refer to James Tabor, Robert Eisman, even Bart Ehrman. Everyone knows about this. So you have the Pauline letters, and he tells you about himself in Galatians, as in how he was called, but he said to himself, no one had summoned me. I went of my own volition to this meeting. But this
which meeting?
this
Sorry.
is the Council of Jerusalem, yeah? So this is in Galatians. And then they try to reconcile the concept of the Jewish fellowship with the Gentiles, you know, the table fellowship.
Wait,
Are
hold
you
on a
aware
second.
what's-
Yeah, I'm aware of Acts 15, Acts 21. Acts 15, by the way,
So
is the council
Galatians,
of...
I'm not referring to
Galatians chapter 2.
So Galatians is the earlier of the one. Acts is a later writing.
Okay,
Yeah, do
but
you
I'm
follow?
trying to understand-
So the more historical one would have been Galatians.
We'll make this.
Oh,
Yeah.
you might make this, yeah? So
Yeah.
you're feeding me in Ramadan.
Hey,
So
how are you?
you have like Acts, yeah, which comes later. But the actual one who's going through the thing is Paul. And Paul writes Galatians. And for this reason, historians say Galatians is more reliable and trustworthy than Acts. Acts is written later. The author claims to be a Lucan work. It's the second part. So Luke is saying, this is a message Jesus came for the Jews. But then it moves. And this is what Acts is showing. Acts is explaining how is it that a Jewish prophet with a Jewish God came to have a large Gentile following. So this is what Acts is. Now Acts is an explanation that comes later. However, the rifts are clear when you read in Galatians that Paul has problems with Barnabas, the Jews, and Peter, who he confronted to his face, and it calls him Cephas.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So,
it's
but
not
what are
something
those?
which is
What are those
surprising.
issues, though? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well,
Are you saying that the apostles disagreed with each other? Are you saying that
No,
the
I
apostles?
don't say that
One second.
Paul is- sorry.
Are you saying that they had a different teaching? That Paul had a different teaching to the rest of the apostles? I'm trying to understand.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
all you
sure.
seem to be pointing
So-
out is an incident that happened. In
No, you asked
Galatians.
me, but I assume you said you heard me last
Yeah,
week.
yeah, yeah.
So it's not me telling you, you're asking me, I'm answering you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll just make that one clear. Yeah? So I was explaining to you about the disagreement because you asked me about that. Now, in the larger scope of things, if I were to answer the questions you've just asked me, were there any differences between Paul and the disciples? Of course there were.
I thought that's what you were getting at in your last conversation
Yes,
with this guy.
yes. That's what I'm asking you. That is what has happened.
Oh, so that's what I'm asking you about. What are those differences?
So some of the differences is if you see in Acts in the meeting that James called Paul to, he said, I hear that you call the people to apostate from the laws of Moses.
Can you show me that, please?
Yeah, sure. Can you ask someone to show you while we speak? Has someone
Do you
got
know where?
internet?
Do you know where it
You
is?
should know this though. Sorry.
Right, you're making a claim, so I'm just trying to
No,
understand.
but I'm making a claim to a Christian. That's why it's not like I'm making a claim to someone. You know the verse where Paul, James says to Peter that the people say or claim that you are causing the people to apostate from the laws of Moses. He'll bring it out. So that way it just keeps fluidity while we speak.
Acts 15 or Acts 21.
Yeah.
Acts 21.
Yeah, so the point is, yeah, Paul, from our point of view, even the Christian point of view, never met Jesus in person. His was a vision on the road to Damascus, and his name was Saul, and he had been persecuting the original Jewish followers of Jewish followers of Jesus, who was called the Way. And this is his own testimony that he used to persecute the Way, the people of the Way. And the people of the Way were the disciples because there was no other Christians at that time or Jewish followers of Christianity. So he had been persecuting them. Now, the disagreement which your question you're asking is, we don't believe Paul is an apostle. He says he is apostle. Now, in Acts, when one of the apostles, Judas, he betrays Jesus, they have a meeting to choose the 12th apostle again. And Paul is alive, but they don't choose Paul to be that the apostle. You have to ask yourself as to why. If his apostleship was something which is verifiable, even though he didn't meet Jesus face to face. Why is it then the other disciples did not choose him as the 12th disciple to replace Judas? Instead, who they chose? Do you remember who they chose?
Matthias.
Matthias.
Yeah.
And there was a condition. There was about 3 conditions. Do you remember?
Okay. Go ahead.
The conditions is one who had been with us from the beginning to the end, and there's another condition I forget. For the choosing of apostles to be apostle.
I can't remember top of my head.
Anyway, there was about 3. I mentioned 2 of the 3, but clearly the disciples did not choose Paul to be an apostle either. Now, Paul, he comes and he says to the Roman Gentiles. Initially, he was preaching who? He was preaching to the Jews, but the Jews rejected Paul, so he went on taught to the Gentiles. Now he said, I appear to the Gentiles as someone who is a Gentile. His exact words were, the uncircumcised as an uncircumcised. And
Okay.
to those who are circumcised, I am like one who is under the law.
I don't want to lose track. You said
No,
quite a lot.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Not everything that you said I agree with.
Sure.
I want to go back to that text in Acts chapter 21, where it seems to be the case that you're claiming that Paul and James disagreed.
Yeah, because if you
And then we
see,
can talk about Paul's apostleship
so this is why I
after.
said yes.
Yeah, so where's your evidence for that?
So in this, you see that Paul, in his mission, he tells the Jews that they're not bound by the law. The law is a burden. It is a curse. If you know about the Pauline letters, you have read this throughout
No,
his
but
letters. Yeah?
you mentioned Acts 21, right? That's the scripture that you were looking for. Where's the disagreement between him and James? That's what I'm trying to understand. Yeah.
I'm telling you.
So do you have the verse?
Well, sure.
Yeah, let's-
I'm assuming that's just some things that you know as a Christian. For
Yeah,
the flow,
yeah, yeah.
because arguments aren't just like it's in just this one verse. No, it's
No, but
in
what
collection.
I know what you're saying. I hear it. You're making a very important point, and I just want you to establish it with the scripture,
Yes.
right? So don't assume that I know everything that you're saying.
Yeah, sure. When
right?
you don't, you tell me. So what he'll do,
So
he'll pull
what
it
I
out.
need to know is where you're getting this information from.
Acts 21, verse 17 onwards.
So can you read the sources that you're referring to?
Okay, so Paul's arrival at Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Okay, when we arrived at Jerusalem, the brothers and sisters received us warmly. The next day, Paul and the rest of us went to see James, and all the elders were present. Paul greeted them and reported in detail what God had done among the Gentiles
Which verse
through
you at?
his ministry. I'm on verse 20 now, yeah?
Yeah.
When they heard this, they praised God. Then they said to Paul, you see, brother, how many thousands of Jews have believed?
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of them zealous for the law.
Yeah.
Meaning that he was teaching the law.
Okay.
Yeah? So that's the first evidence, yeah? They have informed that you teach all the Jews who lived amongst the Gentiles to turn away from Moses. Now the word in there is actually apostasy, if you check the Greek.
Okay.
Yeah? Gentiles to turn away from Moses, telling them not to circumcise their children. If you know what circumcision is, it's the covenant that makes the Jew have to keep all of the mitzvot, the 613 rules.
Okay.
So Paul is clearly here being told by James that we hear that this is what you're doing. And now when you read Paul's work, and you should know about this, is Paul tells the Jews that the law is a curse and they're no longer bound by the law.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah?
now.
So there's a difference.
Can I respond to what
One
you're
believe-
saying then?
Yeah, sure.
Once you've made your point, let me respond to what you're saying. So
Go
you
on.
finished?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you exactly saying here then, just to make sure I completely understand? Are you saying that Paul was telling the Jews to forsake the law of Moses? Is that what you're saying, that this text teaches?
No, this is the claim I'm saying here, because where did they dispute was your original question. So I'm showing
Yeah.
you how James said that he had a problem with Paul because the people are saying that he forsook for the Jews told him to forsake
Was he saying
the
that
law
that's
of
true?
Moses. No, what he says here, if you read the rest of it, that in order to show that this is not true, you need to do the Nazareth
So it
vows.
wasn't true then?
No. This is what he is saying if it's not.
So it
But
wasn't true?
Hear me.
Be sincere with me,
No,
respectfully.
I am, but if you listen to
Okay.
me, you get there, okay? If you read his chapters, he clearly tells the Jews that they don't need to follow the law.
Okay, we'll get to that after.
Yeah.
Let me
No,
read.
did you understand
I hear
the
what you're. I
connection?
hear what you're saying, but let me respond to you by going through this text as well. So you read Acts 21 from verse 17. It says, "When we arrived in Jerusalem, the brothers welcomed us joyfully. The next day, Paul went in with us to see James, and all the elders were present. Paul greeted them and recounted recounted one by one the things that God had done among the Gentiles through his ministry. When they heard this, they glorified God. Then they said to Paul, "You see, brother, how many thousands of Jews have believed, and all of them are zealous for the law." So that's referring to the Jews specifically. But they are under the impression that you teach all the Jews. Sorry, my friend, let me just focus, yeah? If you don't mind. Yo.
I'm listening
yeah.
to you. You're just reading.
But-
I know this verse. Yeah.
But they are under the impression that you teach all the Jews who live among the Gentiles to forsake Moses. Notice that it says that they are under the impression. It's not fact. They're just under the impression. Let me continue. Not to observe their children or to observe the customs. What then shall we do? They will certainly hear that you have come. Therefore, do what we advise you. There are 4 men with us who have taken a vow. Take these men, purify yourselves along with them, and pay their expenses so they can have their heads shaved. Then everyone will know that there is no truth to these rumors about you, but that you also live in obedience to the law.
Okay, so he follows the law.
Okay, hear me now. Let me make my point.
Okay,
I have
go
not
on.
finished
You
yet.
have not, yes.
I'm not finished yet.
Go on, yeah.
So clearly here, James and the rest of the elders that he was with didn't believe in these rumors. That's why he told him to take this vow to show that there is no
They wanted
truth to these rumors.
clarification.
No, it says it here.
No, it says they
Take
want-
okay.
they
I'm
wanted
gonna read it again.
clarification.
I'm gonna read it again.
No, let me
Let me say this. Let me say this because you said quite a bit. Let me respond to you. It says here, take these men, purify yourself along with them, and pay their expenses so they can have their heads shaved. Then everyone will know
know
there is
exactly.
no truth. No.
Clarification.
Listen.
No.
Stop cherry picking the
Timothy,
verses.
no.
Bro,
You
bro,
picked that
bro,
verse,
bro,
not me, Timothy.
bro,
They
bro.
said-
When you read,
look.
bro, when you did
Okay,
the
go
singular
on, go on.
breakdown,
Finish what you
yeah,
wanna say,
bro.
go on.
When
See
you
what you-
did the reading, you conveniently missed out one of the most important verses.
Okay, what was it?
This verse 24.
No, I never.
Yes,
I never
yes.
read it. No.
By the way, there's more. By the way,
Naughty.
there's a lot more I can add to
No,
this.
no.
Let me just
You-
make the point.
You haven't made any point. You haven't. Right now, you made an accusation which isn't true. Because I made clear, I answered your question where they disputed. Now, I'm telling you that they disputed. One says to follow the law, and that's why he made him do the Nazareth vows. Now,
No.
you're saying, oh, I
You're
didn't
adding
tell
to the
the people
text.
there.
You're adding something to the text that's not there.
The camera is clear. They know exactly what I said. Now, I said in the works of Paul, yeah, he makes it clear that he is not under the law. But these people are pulling him to show him that he must be under the law.
Okay.
So that is a
So
dispute.
we need to clarify something then.
So deal with my argument.
Let's clarify
Don't
this.
strawman me and say,
I'm not
oh, like this.
No.
and that, eh?
I'm not strawmanning you. I'm trying to make sure that we
Doesn't
understand.
sound like you're trying to understand.
No, seriously,
Yeah,
I am.
Really? Okay.
You
Which
said-
part didn't you understand?
I'll tell
Explain
you.
to me.
So when you're referring to Acts 21, right? This particular passage, you're making it out like Paul was doing something that James wasn't doing. Is that correct?
No, that's not what I said.
So
Where
are
did
you
get
saying
that
okay?
from?
So are you
I
saying?
said, I'll
so
explain this.
okay.
You
So
clearly didn't get that
okay.
right.
So let me make
Timothy,
let me
explain
make it
this.
clear. Let me
But
say
you
let me say it in a different way.
If you're saying, okay, go on.
Let me say it in a different way.
Okay.
Are you saying to me then?
What don't you get about it, Timothy?
I want to make
I'm
this.
saying in
look,
clean.
this
You're
is
trying to
breaking
reward
down.
what
I
I'm
want to
saying.
make it clear. I just want to make it
But
simple.
what I'm saying is very clear. Paul says he is not under the law. James says, Paul, you must be under the law.
Okay, so
And then
according
shows
according
him
to this
that
passage,
he was under the law.
okay, according
because of James.
according to this passage, what these men, these Jews, were accusing Paul of, did James believe it? Yes or no?
We're not told if he believes it or not.
Bro,
This-
you are told. Hamza.
No,
It's Hamza, right?
Timothy, yeah, Timothy.
You are
no, you're reading
okay.
into it.
Okay,
No,
read
no,
it. Let's
no.
okay.
No.
Let's read it.
Read where it says that he.
So I've
believes it.
understood your position then.
Yeah, so read.
I've
this,
understood your
go on,
position
go on,
then.
read
If
it,
I'm
go
able
on.
to make that
Give us
point,
the
I've
verse.
understood your
Give
position.
us the verse.
Verse 24.
No,
the verse
where
that
it
you
says that
let
James
me
believed it.
read the text, man.
Look, you speak
Hamza.
and I'm responding. Timothy, you speak, I'm responding.
Hamza, let me read the
No,
text, man. This is
you
difficult,
speak.
bro.
I'm asking you to read.
Okay.
Now, take it easy. Take it
Let me-
easy.
let me
Okay,
read.
Look, Timothy, 1 second. Let me also speak where you don't speak over me.
All right.
Do
You
understand?
speak and I'll respond to you.
No. You can. I'm asking you now. You believe in something, a positive position. That is that Paul is believed by James not to be free from the law. Show me that verse.
Paul is believed by James. Okay,
not
I'll
to
show
be
you.
under the law.
What I'm showing you is this. This is what's in dispute in Acts 21. The Jews were under the impression that Paul was going around teaching the Jews to forsake the law of
That's
Moses.
right, that's what I said.
James didn't believe that.
It doesn't say that.
I'll explain then. Let me explain.
Show me.
Yeah, verse 24.
That's what we said.
Verse 23 actually to 24. Therefore, do what we advise you. There are 4 men with us who have taken a vow. Take these men, purify yourself along with them, and pay their expenses, so they can have their heads shaved. Let me go, man.
Stopped you, go on.
Yeah, because it's coming up to my
Go
part.
on.
Then everyone will know.
Everyone,
No,
yes.
you're doing it again. You're doing it again.
Everyone,
You're interrupting.
everyone.
You're interrupting.
Everyone, go on.
He's trying to change what the verse says.
Okay, I'm trying to change.
Let me say what I'm saying without interruption. I'll read it again from verse 23 to 24. Therefore, do what we advise. There are 4 men with us who have taken a vow. Take these men, purify yourself along with them, and pay their expenses, so they can have their heads shaved. Then everyone will know there is no truth to these rumors. They were rumors. There's no truth to it about you, but that you also live in obedience to the law. So James clearly understood, Hamza, James clearly understood that there were no truth to these accusations and to these rumors. And this can be backed up in Acts chapter 15. In Acts chapter 15, we have the first council of Jerusalem, where there was a dispute about the Gentile believers. Should they be circumcised under the law of Moses, and should they start following the law? The apostles agreed that they were not under such obligations. However, that didn't mean that didn't apply to the Jews.
Sounds like you're preaching.
I'm making the point.
Sounds preaching.
Because you...
It doesn't sound like you're making a point.
Okay, let me just get on with it.
Yeah, but I'm not here to preach. Go on, say
All right,
your point.
I'll
and
say
then
my,
I
let
can-
me say
I
my
can
point and get
jump
back.
in, innit?
Exactly. It wasn't applied to the Jews. So the Jews continued circumcision. They continued to observe the law of Moses. No Jewish apostle was going around telling the people to forsake the law of Moses. It's just that the Gentiles, and this is why he's confused, because the book of Galatians was actually written to a Gentile church. Now, by no means am I saying that there is salvation by following the law. I'm not saying that. But the point that I need to stress is that there were different offices that needed to be tended to. That's why the apostles in Galatians chapter 2, I'll make this last point, right? It says in Galatians chapter 2 that some went to the Jews and some went to the Gentiles. There were 2 different ministries and they both had 2 different needs.
Okay,
that's my
thank
point.
you very much, okay? This was a simple point, okay? So James is calling Paul for clarification. This is what I said. It does not say that he had a position. You're telling me he does have a position. You spent so long, but you could not show that he has a position. He said that everyone will know. That's clarification.
Know
that
what?
Everyone know what? Exactly, that you follow the law. Stop. He will know that everyone will know that you, Paul, follow the law and there's nothing to these rumors. So he was seeking clarification. And if that was enough, because...
Doesn't say that.
No, you have to stop because you
Okay, go
were
ahead.
preaching. I didn't
Go
stop
ahead,
you,
go
yeah?
ahead.
So then it goes on, if he read the verse to the verse, and unfortunately because I like to just say things and then it's easy because I assume the speaker knows what's being said. If you read the rest of Acts, what happened to Paul?
He went to trial.
Prior
And
to him being,
interestingly,
prior to him,
what his evidence...
I'm not asking
Okay,
for anything else.
so
Don't
then
hijack
answer
context.
me a
My
specific...
question is
Then why don't you
specific.
make your point?
Okay,
then
my
asking me
specific-
opening
my
questions.
question was specific.
Make your point
What
without
happened
asking
to
opening
him
questions.
afterwards? That was my
Make your point, yeah?
Okay, he doesn't want
Make
to
your...
arrest him.
Hamza,
Yeah,
Hamza.
Yeah. So he was arrested in the temple and he was mobbed by the Jews because they did not believe him. And even in his own words, he says, to those who are uncircumcised, I pretend to be one who is uncircumcised. To those who are circumcised, I pretend to be who is circumcised. Unfortunately, Timothy doesn't know. He also says, if by my lie the truth is abounded, then why do you judge me as the sinner? Meaning that he's okay doing this double act. He's all right to act as a Christian here or a Gentile Christian, and he's all right to act as a Jew. Unfortunately, because you don't know, Timothy, these verses, it's hard for you to understand.
Okay, now you're patronizing me.
No,
I know,
no,
I'm
you-
aware of these things, but I'm not.
So
but
wait,
I
wait,
need,
I haven't
I need
finished,
you to explain yourself. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So anyone who knows the Bible, has read the works of Paul, understands that Paul was against the law. He calls it a curse that Jesus died for. And once Jesus died, he believed that curse of the law was no longer existent. But because you don't understand the theology of Paul, you're here arguing with me that Paul does believe the law. He does not believe the law, and this is the theology of Paul, that Jesus died. Any man who's hung on a tree dies as a curse. And when Paul reads the Old Testament, he sees that the law, he says the law is a curse because anyone who breaks
So you're
a
in
single...
preaching mode now, yeah?
No, I'm not. I'm giving information. You wasn't. You were
Okay,
just
so
preaching.
you're in preaching mode
You
now.
were just preaching.
Okay.
So this is the theology of Paul. Paul believes that the law was a curse and Jesus died as a curse. So the law died along with Jesus. Go on, come back from that. Let's see how you respond.
You said a lot of things, right? And I
No,
want
I
you
didn't.
for everything that you say to back it up with scripture, because I've already been able to I've already been able to show that when you made reference to Acts 21, you misquoted the text.
I didn't. I said
you
clarification.
you misquoted the text.
I didn't.
Now I'm gonna move on and respond to some of the things that you said.
to
After
the
this,
first one, don't move on.
after this, Paul went to trial, right? What did he go to trial for? For this very thing. For this very thing. And he used this evidence of him taking the Nazarene vow or the purification vow as him being someone who didn't teach the Jews to forsake Moses. None of the apostles taught the Jews to forsake Moses. In fact, it was through the teachings of Moses, through the law and the prophets, that the Jews would come to know who the Messiah is. He wasn't teaching that, and he hasn't been able to prove that. The letters that he's referring to are the letters that were written to the Gentiles. For example, the book of Galatians. Galatians chapter 3 says, "O foolish Gentiles, who has bewitched you? After starting by means of the faith, you try to, by means of faith or by the Spirit, you try to end in the flesh." He was talking to a Gentile church. He doesn't even know this stuff. He's ignorant of it. So he's looking at Gentile letters and saying that this applies to Jews. It didn't. If he was smart enough to read Galatians chapter 2 and understand it properly, he would have known that there were certain apostles who went to the Jews and certain apostles who went to the Gentiles. And sometimes they were overlap. And this is what Apostle Paul was actually rebuking Peter for in Galatians chapter 2, because he wasn't walking in line with the truth of the gospel, because he was distancing himself from the Gentiles when certain Jews came. It was a wrong thing that he did, and that was dealt with. However, this is the main point. Paul wasn't going around telling anybody to forsake the law of Moses that was a Jew. It wasn't happening. James understood this. That's why he said that there is no truth to this. If he believed Paul was telling people to forsake the law of Moses, he wouldn't have said the things that he said in Acts chapter 21. Remember, Paul went on trial for this. And if we read further down the line, we see more accusations coming. For example, I'll show you here in Acts.
Dealing with the points
I'm making the point. I'm dealing with your points.
Dealing with the points.
I am.
Okay, go on. I'm
Just
waiting.
give me some time, man.
I have given you time. I'm waiting for you.
Well, if you're listening.
Go on.
Okay, so what's the specific point that you want me to deal with then?
Is Paul's theology is known? I say that.
Okay, now, okay.
I'll say it again. Yeah,
Okay.
you're saying I didn't know. I made it very clear.
The
when
point that I
spoke.
was addressing.
You asked me, so you
yeah,
want
but
me
let me
to-
make this clear. The point that I
land
was.
with your point then. Go on.
Okay, the point that I was addressing was this: is that you were trying to show disparity between James and Paul, right? You said many things. You were trying to show that Paul is not even a credible apostle. You were trying to say that
Yes.
also there's many things to address. Because you said a lot, but I'm addressing one thing at a time. And then after this conversation, I would like to ask you some questions about Islam, if you'll be okay with that.
Yeah, sure.
Great. So now I hope you can
Yeah,
address some of my
let's
questions.
do a proper
So
debate then. Let's do a
we've
proper
already
debate.
started. We've already started.
No, you asked me the question, not me asked you the
No,
question.
we already
This is
started.
the question you asked me.
No, we already started, Hamza.
Listen, Timothy.
We've
you
already.
answer my
Now he's
question.
panicking. He knows I want to talk to him about Islam, and now he's trying to get out of it. No, it's silly.
Romans 31, that we must overthrow the law by faith, by no means, on the contrary, we uphold it.
Exactly.
You know what panicking is?
Thank you.
You know what panicking is?
Hamza.
I said I'm more than happy.
Hamza,
I'm
I was
gonna choose my
able.
topic.
I was able to have a nice conversation with Rayhan and Hussein just before. You've come in,
Oh,
right?
this is not nice. You feel
It's not
this,
as pleasant. No.
Okay,
I'll
that's
tell
your
you why.
point. I'm
Let me tell
having
you
a
why.
pleasant
Let me tell you
conversation.
why.
I'm having a pleasant
Let me tell you
conversation.
why, right?
Why do you feel
Let me
unpleasant?
let me tell you why.
Why do you feel unpleasant? Go on.
Let me explain. Let me
Go
get
on,
to
tell
it.
us,
Let me tell you why.
Tell us. Either you feel intimidated or
Of course
something.
not.
So why do you feel
Why would I
unpleasant?
feel intimidated?
So why
Look,
do you
he's
feel
in me, he's
you feel
laughing.
unpleasant?
All right,
So
all
why
right,
do you
it's
feel
a bit
unpleasant?
childish now. All right, let's do this. Let's do a debate
Okay,
format.
let's do the debate format.
1
Two
minute.
topics. You have a
1
topic, I have a
minute,
topic.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, what's
Yeah?
the first topic?
Okay.
This topic, we already started.
No, you chose this topic.
I know.
No, I asked you about some.
You asked me yes.
Wait, hold
now
on.
let me choose my topic.
Hold on a second.
Why are you scared?
Hamza.
Why are you scared?
Hamza. I'm not scared.
So let you choose your
but
topic.
you're scared because
I'm
you're
choose- no,
scared.
I said
you
you
are
choose
scared.
your topic.
You are scared. Let me
Because
tell
you
you why.
understand-
I
you choose
understand
your
what you're
topic.
saying.
Wait, one second.
It's a joke.
Let me come in. Let me
Do you
come in.
understand what I'm saying?
Wait, wait, wait,
No,
let-
he has a choice.
very moment he said he would ask you questions.
What's
he has
happened
a
in this
topic,
discussion? Let me
I
tell you
have a
what's
topic.
happened in
You
discussion.
understand?
But you're the
Huh?
one who has been asking him questions
No,
all day.
no,
You've
I
been
haven't.
talking
It's
about
been
the
a
Bible.
discussion.
Actually, he's
No,
making
it
the
hasn't.
points. Let me
No,
listen
it
to what he's saying.
hasn't.
Andre, let's do this.
Hamza, he's made it very
Let's
clear.
make it fair. Let's make
What
it
He's
you've
a
been
Christian.
doing.
He's
There's
supporting you,
going
of
to
course.
be-
You
Wait,
know,
wait, wait,
you
wait,
asked
one
me
second.
the question,
1 second.
and I've been
Hamza,
asking
let me tell you
questions.
something.
And
You've been
you've
asking me
no,
questions.
No, you
about
asked me questions.
Apostle.
One second. You asked me
okay,
questions.
say what you need to say,
And
let
I
me say
answered questions. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's not my topic of debate. I'm happy to debate your topic, but you also have to debate me on
Yeah,
my
yeah,
topic.
that's fair,
That
that's
sounds
fair.
fair. You answered questions just
This,
now,
let me
and I answered questions right now.
let me respond to what you're saying.
But if you don't want to, that's fine.
Let me
Let's choose
respond, let
your
me respond
topic,
to what
no
you're
problem.
saying, right? And this is what I'm saying. Last week you were talking to Christians about Paul,
Yes.
about him being an apostle.
Not apostle.
No, I've it's on the video.
He's not
Yeah,
apostle.
yeah, about him not being an apostle.
That's right.
Right?
Because he was in there when
Sorry, brother. 1 second. About disparity between him and James.
Yes.
And you were trying to show that he had a different teaching to James than the rest of the apostles.
Yes.
You even brought up the Ebionites.
That's right.
Something that you haven't brought up today.
can if
So
you
I
want.
said, if you want to, right? So I'm listening to what you're saying. I asked you, okay, I would like to talk to you about these things, right?
you
so you
chose
can,
it, yeah.
so you can challenge me on my beliefs. You're challenging me on my beliefs.
We're
I don't
talking-
know.
this is a topic you
yeah, but hear
chose.
what I'm saying. You're challenging me on my beliefs.
You're challenging me on my
in,
belief,
no, I'm
on
still
this.
in a defensive position.
You're-
This is the point you're not getting. I'm in a defensive
Okay, you know what?
position.
I'll be charitable. Choose whatever topic
Okay,
you want. Let's
fine.
choose
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
topic
I'm-
you
And
want.
then once that's done, he also has the chance to also.
Okay, that's
he
fine.
doesn't want to. He wants
That's
you
fine,
only to
that's
be.
fine.
He only
That's
wants to
fine,
be
that's fine.
attacking because he can't defend. It's fine.
No, I'm
I'll
not
choose
saying
it.
that,
okay,
bro.
it's
It's
okay.
being childish, bro.
Hopefully, don't do that. Come
You're
on, let's have a
childish.
nice
Don't say I'm
conversation.
childish.
You are,
You're
though.
childish. No, you are childish.
No,
You
that's
feel
been child-
uncomfortable.
both of you
I'm
childish.
comfortable.
I haven't called you childish.
I'm fine.
You said
If
you're
anyone says I
uncomfortable.
feel uncomfortable, it's a
I'm
lie.
saying-
I'm okay.
saying, look,
I'm
is it fair?
comfortable.
Look,
I'm
so-
not shaking.
so look,
my,
is there
my-
anyone who's
I'm
not-
sturdy.
Look,
I'm okay. I'm,
Yeah,
I'm,
yeah.
discussing
I'm
the
not
Bible
uncomfortable.
all day.
What am I worried about?
he's attending to you.
Did you hear what I said? What did I say?
Hold on.
What did I
He's
say?
been very fair to you. to
No,
be honest with
you've been biased towards him.
No, no,
You-
no.
I said very clearly, I'm happy to take one topic, one topic.
changed very
If he
much.
does not want
Questions
to,
on Islam,
that's
he must
fine.
change everything.
I'll take his topic. What's so hard about that?
what-
Is that
You're going to
difficult?
finish this topic.
That's what
Yeah,
I
but
mean.
he want, I don't know.
So
I
to
said
finish
it, but
this
do you?
topic,
Is that unfair?
like
If
right,
I say to him he can have his topic, what's
I said,
unfair about
I
that?
said let's reset. Let's reset the debate. And what Timothy wants to debate is about your conclusion regarding James and Paul. So that's the first debate. Once that's done, you have the chance to select a debate that he is willing to agree.
No, but
Okay,
that's
For
what.
40 minutes you've been talking about
Exactly.
Change.
Okay, why do we?
That's
make
what I mean.
All right, let's make.
I've been in a defensive position for God knows how long.
No, I've
He's
been
made
defending my
points.
position.
He's made.
I'm defending my position.
He's making
So he's
points.
on the back foot, you're not.
No, I'm on the back foot.
No, you
I am
no.
on the back. He's
You
making
say
a claim
to
against
show-
my
you say to show-
against my
no.
religion.
You say
but
to
you're
show
putting him on
where
the back.
James and Paul had a dispute. I showed you
in
from
the Christian
here.
position.
Exactly.
He's on the back foot.
Exactly.
I'm defending my
Exactly.
position. That's why I'm
Exactly.
defending my position.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but you're,
He's
You're
looking
not
at my-
defending, you're
No,
making a
let's
claim,
not
bro.
fight. Look, are you scared to hold a position?
You're making
I'm
a
saying
claim.
I will let you
Timothy
choose,
was
Timothy.
Thank you.
Yes,
Initiate
but
the motion.
I
Shake
would
your
like
neck.
it. I would like you
Yeah.
to also to take a topic.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But let's talk about this, right?
So
Because-
he's on the back foot. Not
No, he's not on the. He can't be on the
It
back
doesn't
foot.
matter. You can have your stop moaning. Just bloody talk about the discussion. Go on.
You can't be on the back foot, yeah,
Oh, please. Next topic. Go on.
bro. Let me just speak. This is the thing, right? Hamza.
Are you timing this? Time this.
Yeah,
No,
no,
that's not timing, that's not timing.
Don't say no. Time it.
Hamza. Hamza.
No, no,
This
no.
is Hamza.
The
Hamza,
time debate. Why are you scared for? You got the topic now. Now we time it.
I'm
That's
not
it.
scared.
So do
Bro,
the debate.
can you just tell him to be quiet for 1 second? Exactly.
So when you say, can you tell him to be quiet? That's not provoking people.
Well, it was a little bit, to be fair. I'll be fair. But you weren't listening though, so I had to tell your brother.
No, but you're saying you want to debate. I've agreed to it. Now I say, stop speaking about the old stuff.
So
Time it
this-
so you don't waste
so this
your
is-
time.
Yeah. So, but in regards,
First of all, what's the debate?
I want to finish this topic. I want to finish this topic.
Oh, I know you want to move on.
That's what I'm saying.
okay, go ahead.
Right? I want to conclude on this because he said he made many. Oh, not this guy.
No, go.
Go ahead.
All right. So you said many things about Paul. I was doing my best to address each point. It takes time because you said.
Take it.
Oh yeah. God bless you. Yeah. Take care. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just in a debate though. Thank you. Yeah.
Let's
Bless
agree
him.
to disagree. That's it. I'm not timing.
There's many things that you said about Paul, and I'm trying to clear it up.
The
Right.
apostle, yeah.
Right, the Apostle Paul, and I'm trying to clear it up, each thing that you said, bit by bit, right? So I mentioned in the book of Acts, chapter 21, right, that James didn't believe that Paul was teaching the Jews to forsake Moses. That's clear in the text. I've read that in verses 22, I believe, to 24. Paul also went on trial for this, and he used the Nazarene vow as evidence to say that he hadn't been doing what the Jews were accusing him of, right? If we go back to Acts 15, the point that I was trying to make before is that you have a dispute among the Jews that come from the sect of the Pharisees, right? And they're saying that the Gentiles need to be circumcised and follow the law of Moses. The apostles at the first council of Jerusalem, which you cited already, so you know it, disagreed and said that they shouldn't be put under the yoke that neither them nor their forefathers could bear. It didn't mean that the Jews didn't have that yoke. And that's the difference that you're not spotting. There was a different way or different ministry for the Gentiles than there was for the Jews. So the Jews weren't told to forsake Moses, but the Gentiles weren't required to follow the law. That's the thing that you're not getting. And when now talking about the book of Galatians, which you referred to a few times in the beginning, like I said before, that was a book that was written to a Gentile audience. They were not Jewish. So when it says, "Oh, foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?"
Okay, 30 seconds. And then we're going to move on to the next topic.
When it says, "Oh,"
Let's finish this
Yeah.
one. And then
So
but
let's
you have to
have a
learn. You have to.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you
but
get lost.
I'm responding.
So this is the conclusion.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm just.
Go ahead.
Look, if you talk, remember in your opening, you spoke a lot. So I'm giving you, I'm responding back.
But it would be nice to, like, as in if we could keep it to.
All right,
you know
respond,
what I mean?
respond.
No, I don't want to cut you. Go on.
Let me say my final point. So in the book of Galatians, for example, in chapter 3, it says, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" You started off by the Spirit, but you try to end by means of the flesh. It's because Jews were going up to them, telling them that they should be following the law of Moses, something that they weren't told to do. It went against the teachings of the apostles. So it's not that Paul was going to Jews saying, "Forsake Moses." Never did it. And we also see that in the book of Acts, last point, chapter 21, where it says that they were under the impression, I paraphrase, because a Gentile had walked into the temple, which was forbidden. And it was a Gentile that Paul was seen with. So they thought it was him who was responsible for that. But he also denied that. He said it wasn't him. So these were accusations from Jews who disliked Paul, disliked his ministry, claiming that he was going around telling the Jews to forsake Moses when he didn't. And that's my point.
Okay, Timothy, if you had listened to what I had said, I say Paul first initially went to the Jews, and then afterwards he went to the Gentiles. I also mentioned, so I'm aware of this, that the law he was talking about to the Gentiles was different to the law to the Jews. That's not what I had said. The argument was from Acts, when James says to Paul that the people are saying that this is the accusation. Now the accusation was seen to be, it needed to be clarified, so they asked him to do the Nazareth vows. It wasn't something he was willing to do. Paul himself says, "I am not under the law." Paul himself, he equates the law to be a curse. Paul himself, under his theology, believes that Jesus died as a curse, and thus the law died with it. So he believes that no one lives underneath the law. What happens if you listen, because you actually straw man some of my points, yeah? In the Council of Jerusalem, they were told to do the Noahide laws, or what they call the Noahide laws, the laws for the Gentiles. So there were 4 laws that they were told. So I'm aware of this. But maybe you didn't pick up the actual argument that I was making. The argument was from Acts. The people make the accusation that you, Paul, are calling the people or the Jews into leaving the law, or what he says was apostasy to the law of Moses. But this doesn't stop. After the Jerusalem Council, where they agreed 4 things, the first and probably the most important one was that the Gentiles, they should not eat meat which is sacrificed to idols. You could check this if you want to double check this stuff. And the reason was this, so that the Jews could sit along with the Gentiles in table fellowship. But then immediately what happens, men from James were sent. This is what it says. Why is James sending men in the first place? And then what is, Cephas stood up when he was eating along with Paul, the Gentiles and the Jews. Cephas stood up. Why is Cephas standing up? Why are the Jews also standing up? Why is Barnabas also standing up? So it seems that all of the Jews stood up because they knew that Paul was breaking the agreement. The agreement was that they should not eat the meat which is slaughtered for idolatry. If this is not the case, then there is no reason for Cephas to stand up. There is no reason for Barnabas to stand up. There is no reason for the Jews to stand up. You have to explain why, after the Council of Jerusalem in the year 60, when the 4 Noahide laws was mandated by the Jamesian decree, why is it that Paul is still not following these laws? And then he says, I stood to Cephas in his face. I stood to Cephas in his face and called out his hypocrisy. Anyway, so the original debate, it goes back to what I'd said, that he was being accused by the Jews, that he was calling the Jews away from the laws of Moses. And what would happen is, the theology of Paul again is that Jesus died as a curse, and the law is a curse. And then when Jesus died, the law dies along with him. This is his idea of justification. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, you said quite a lot. I'm going to try my best to respond to some of the things you were saying.
How long did that take, bro?
I gave it time.
Okay, that's fine.
You lot are well behaved now.
We're trying to be.
Grown up there.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read from Galatians chapter 2, from the scripture that you've been quoting here and there. And it says here from verse 11, when Cephas came to Antioch, however, I opposed him to his face, because he stood condemned. For before certain men came from James, he used to eat with the Gentiles. But when they arrived, he began to draw back and separate himself, for fear of those in the circumcision group. The other Jews joined him in his hypocrisy, so that by their hypocrisy even Barnabas was led astray. When I saw that they were not walking in line with the truth of the gospel, I said to Cephas in front of them all, if you are a Jew, if you who are a Jew live like a Gentile and not like a Jew, how can you compel the Gentiles to live like Jews? I don't know why you're doing that. It's not supporting your point. We who are Jews by birth and not Gentile sinners know that a man is not justified by the works of the law, but by faith in Jesus Christ, which the apostles actually affirmed in the council, the first council of Jerusalem in Acts chapter 15. So we too have believed in Jesus Christ, that we may be justified by faith in Christ and not by the works of the law, because by the works of the law no one will be justified. So what was going on here? Peter withdrew himself when certain Jews came, and he separated himself from eating with the Gentiles. It doesn't specify for the reasons that this man has said. It doesn't specify that at all. Not at all, not within this particular context. We find in Acts chapter 11 and Acts chapter 10, when Peter went to Cornelius' house, that some people took issue with that. They questioned it. They were like, oh, is it right to eat with Gentiles? And this? These were things that were accustomed to Jews at the time. Doesn't necessarily say that it was taught in the law of Moses to not eat with a Gentile. That we have to be clear on. But it was something that they understood, because there was a chance that the food could have been sacrificed to idols. There was a chance of that. So what they were doing at the time is that they wouldn't eat with Gentiles, but it wasn't to my knowledge a specific law in the law of Moses where they weren't allowed to eat with Gentiles. It was one of those traditions, and it was something that Peter was doing, and it was regarded as not walking in line with the truth of the gospel. So what you're saying about the Jews and the Gentiles and how Paul was in the wrong, no, he was calling out Peter's hypocrisy. Now, don't get me wrong, just because Peter made a mistake, it doesn't invalidate him being an apostle. We have that's not the case in Christianity. But the main point is this, and this is the main point, that the disagreement here is not a disagreement as to say that one had one way of doing one thing and one had another way. It was a correction. It was a rebuke. It was an admonishment for Peter to do things the right way. That's all it was. So what you're saying, it doesn't apply to this text. You're adding in so much more. You're picking and plucking. This is what Paul says about the law here and there. And you're mixing it all together and you're trying to make something that's not there in the text. They weren't in disagreement with each other. In fact, they continued to do what they needed to do. Apostle Peter continued to minister to the Jews. Paul and Barnabas continued to minister to the Gentiles, and they continued. I don't see the issue.
Okay, so the incident is called the incident in Antioch. Now, if you just read anything about it, you will see it's a disagreement. So it's not something you need to argue about.
Where are you getting that from? The
It's
information
called the
from?
incident
Yeah,
of
but
it.
where are you getting
You
the
can check it anyway. You can check it. You've got the resources available.
No, but I'm asking you for your sources.
Let me speak because in the same way that you're supposed
Okay.
to think, if that's okay. Yeah?
You need to make your claims with sources, though.
Yeah, same as you as well.
But I just did that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let me speak now if that's all right. Yeah? Is that all right? Is that okay?
You just not making.
Is that okay?
It's okay, but you back up
I'm
your.
telling you the verses and then you're finding them. So it's clear that I'm not lying.
No, in this, no,
but
not
you have
in all,
to let me
not
speak
in all
in
occasions.
You know what it is, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, is that okay? Is that okay? Okay. So the verse, so all he done literally was read what I just told him. Exactly as I told him. Men was sent for James. Now the thinking mind would immediately ask, why is James sending men? The Cephas stood up. Barnabas stood up. The Jews stood up. I'm repeating myself because he just read literally what I said. He's just confirming it. And I thank you for that. All of them stood up because men from James had to come. Who was James? He was the head of the church, by the way. There was 3 pillars. James is the head of it. He's the one that gives the decree at the Council of Jerusalem, and he held the highest authority, yes. And that's why it's called the Jamesian Creed. Many Christians don't know that, yeah? But he's the one who issues this. And immediately after, he sends men. And then they find Paul eating with the Gentiles, and thus these 3, Barnabas and Cephas, and the rest of the Jews stand up. And then Paul calls him a hypocrite to his face. We don't hear the other side of the story, because this is coming from the story of Galatians, which is written by Paul. So we don't actually know what's being said, yeah? And you can say Acts, but Acts comes much later, yeah? But so we see there's a disagreement. He calls him to a hypocrite to his face. Now, Timothy, yeah? Timothy is trying to tell me it's not a disagreement. So why is he calling him a hypocrite to him in his face? It's a disagreement. Why is James sending men? It's a disagreement. Why is the Jews standing up? It's a disagreement. Why is Barnabas standing up? It's a disagreement. But he wants to say, no, there was no disagreement. They were harmonious. They're all together. They're all walking in the same way. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go for it.
You're saying that it's a disagreement, but you also admitted that you didn't have the other side. So you're inferring things without evidence. You literally said you don't have the other side.
I just gave
You're not
evidence.
taking Paul's words.
I did.
Paul was saying that they weren't walking in line with the truth of the gospel.
There you go.
And then he corrected him.
There you go.
Right, so it was an
it's a
admonishment.
disagreement.
An admonishment.
Oh, so
a
do you admonish
rebuke.
people that agree with you? Yes
No,
or
obviously you disagree.
Okay,
But
thank you. Thank you.
this is no. But Hamza, let me say this one
go
point.
on, I'll let you
Let me
have
say
the
this
last
one.
one.
Last point. When you say a disagreement, the way you're portraying it is if they had a disagreement and they both continued in that disagreement. That's how you're portraying it.
We don't know.
No, we
don't
do know.
Where do we know?
It literally says it in here
No, it
that they
doesn't.
weren't walking in line with the truth of the gospel, so he confronted them in front of
And
everybody.
what happened afterwards?
And he said that
No,
even
no,
Barnabas,
speak to me, don't
he
preach.
said that even Barnabas was led astray. Barnabas was someone he was working with close by. You already admitted by your own admission.
just said they disagreed,
Hold on a
that's it.
second. Hold on, Hamza. Now you're panicking.
Oh, panicking,
You already
yeah,
said. You already said. Exactly.
Go on.
You already said that you don't have the other side. That's what you said. So everything that you're saying about the situation that's not in the text, you're inferring from your own knowledge. You're not getting it from anywhere. I'm actually staying consistent to the text. I'm saying that this was a rebuke, this was an admonishment, this was a correction for Peter to walk in line with the truth of the gospel. That's what I'm saying.
Let me know when you finish.
I'm finished.
Can we change?
Okay, last one.
Let's change the
more,
topic.
Last one. Again, you're just you're saying all this. I'm panicking. I don't know if you know what panicking is, but believe me, this is anything but panicking. You're saying I'm not quoting. We're using the same text I quoted. They sent men from James. Cephas stood up. Barnabas
Why
stood
did they
up.
send men
and
from
then
James?
you say.
Why did they
you
send
said-
men?
once
Why
again.
did they send men from James? Why did they send men from James? Explain that to me.
You're saying.
Let's go to the Quran. Let's go to the Quran. We've been
One
talking about
second.
You're saying, yeah, that I'm not using the Bible. I'm using the Bible. I'm telling you, you don't have the other source, which is what actually happened from the other point of view. But using what Paul has written, it's clear. It's clear. Men was sent. He called Cephas a hypocrite. You said he corrected him. People don't admonish, as you said, or correct people that agree with them.
Yeah.
You afterwards said, yes, he does disagree. Then that's it. The debate ends. You admitted it. All of that for what reason? Did they agree or did he disagree?
When you're rebuking someone or correcting somebody, there is a disagreement first.
Thank you.
The point that I was
That's
making
what
is
the
this.
point
The
I
point that
made.
I was making is this: is that you're portraying it as if they continued in that disagreement. That's the problem.
Okay.
That's the problem. You've made many points about men coming from James. Why? What does that mean? Where are you getting that information from?
Okay.
It says that men came from James, but what you're attributing it to, or to what
Why
it
did you
means.
send it? Tell me. Why?
You're making the claim.
No, I'm asking you why.
You're making the claim. You're making the claim.
Why did
No, let me know.
James
This is
send
my
men?
question. This is my question to you. Don't try to judge. This is my question to you. According to this text, why are you making an issue about James sending
Okay,
men?
so now this is your question to me.
Yes, you
Okay.
made the point.
Okay, great. So this is a logical inferral. If you just had a council, hey, I'm good, thank you, how are you? If you just had a council and you passed a decree and then you send men to the very person that's supposed to uphold that decree, why is he sending men? To check that he's implementing the decree. And what happens, clearly, the other Jews, Barnabas and Cephas, all stood up indicating that they weren't following the decree. And he calls him a hypocrite to his face. This is all from the text. Yes, this part of it, which I'm explaining to you, when James sent men, is an indication that he was enforcing the decree that he sent. So, yeah, again, you're disagreeing with me, but you're saying no. And then you quote the verses that I'm saying,
Okay.
and you're saying, yes, he did disagree.
Okay.
And then you're telling
So
me...
are you telling me this then, that there was a decree?
Yes, there was a decree.
There was a decree that they had all agreed upon.
Yes.
And some of them weren't acting according to the decree.
Yes.
So then you're actually validating Paul then. Because you're
let's hear
saying,
this logic.
because you're
Let's hear
validating
this
Paul.
one.
If Paul knows what the decree is, according to what he's saying, and he sees that the apostles aren't walking in line with it, and he's opposing them to their faces and saying, well, this is the decree that we had agreed at Acts 15 at the first council, then that surely would be verifying Paul's apostleship.
Are you speaking to me or are you preaching?
That surely would be verifying Paul's apostleship.
No.
Right?
You're asking me the
If
question.
he's saying, let me speak freely, bro. Let me speak freely.
Sorry, bye.
Right? Come on, man. Every time I'm flowing, you try and cut me. You're making this argument. You're making this link. Right? And by the way you've linked it together,
You don't like it.
no, by the way you've linked it together, you're actually verifying Paul.
Okay, can I respond to that point?
Go on.
Okay. There was a council.
That's a nervous laugh.
There was a council. I'm not nervous, believe me. I think you're nervous.
I'm not nervous.
I'm fasting. My lips are. Okay. He said it though. Why don't you correct him? Why don't you correct him when he says it? Yeah. No, you know it's this. You're right. Okay, listen. So James has just made a decree. James is sending men, and then these men, like Paul.
Sorry, what's the decree that he made, by the way?
The decree is that they have to abide by the Noahide laws.
Okay.
This is known as the Jamesian decree.
Okay.
Okay. So there's 4 laws, and the main one of them I was mentioning is that, and you can't make your argument if you don't know what these laws are, by the way.
You're referring to
But
Acts
that's
15.
fine.
You're referring to Acts
But
15. I know what you're
the point
referring
is,
to.
yeah, that there should
I'm
not
making
be
sure that you
having-
know what you're
Oh,
talking
okay,
about.
Okay, so you're checking me. Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
That's right. And the first one is that they should not eat meat which is sacrificed to the idols. And that's clear that because Barnabas stood up, Cephas stood up, and all the other Jews stood up here, then they must have been breaking that law. He come to the conclusion somehow on the other end that those guys are wrong. No. They're standing up as James the sent man.
Exactly.
I don't know
See how
how,
you
honestly,
inferred-
I'd even understand
See how
the
we
argument
infer-
you
see how
made.
you inferred that at in this particular situation that these men were eating meat that was sacrificed to idols. It doesn't say that in the text. It doesn't say that in the text. What it does say in the text is that Peter wasn't walking in line with the truth of the gospel, and others were getting caught up in his hypocrisy. That even Barnabas did what he was doing. So Peter was the instigator of it. Like I said before, and you haven't dispelled this, you've attributed this situation to being about Acts 15, about the what was decreed in Acts 15. So then you're showing me, by your own admission, that Paul had knowledge, that he was a part of that council, that he was considered an apostle to the Gentiles, right? You're showing me that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to hold them to the standards which they set at the council. So you've literally affirmed Paul. Thank you very much. No, thank you. You've literally affirmed Paul. You've literally affirmed him. Yeah, thank you.
This is Christian logic.
Literally affirmed
This
Paul.
is literally Christian logic. I'm saying the opposite. He's interpreted it as in favor for him. It makes
literally
no
affirmed
sense.
Paul.
Okay, we spoke about Paul being an apostle. He did not answer that. The disciples gathered together to choose a replacement for Judas, and they did not choose Paul. They chose Matthias. No.
Paul was not
No, no,
there.
no,
Paul was
No,
not
don't
there.
interject.
He was not a
Don't
follower of
interject.
John.
This is Scotland.
Don't worry, brother. He's already admitted it.
It's
Don't worry, bro. Don't worry about it. It's already admitted. I'm trying to calm down. He's already admitted it, bro. He's already admitted that Paul's an apostle. It's fine, bro. It's okay.
So this is crazy interpretation. I'm saying that Paul, clearly, for those who don't understand, was not an apostle. He never met Jesus in the flesh. The disciples met Jesus in the flesh. Paul on the road to Damascus, when his name was Saul, was hunting the disciples. He said that he persecuted those who were on the way. The way does not mean a place. It's referring to the original disciples, the Nazarenes who rejected Paul, by the way, and the Epiphanes of Salamis and all the heresiologists mentioned that the companions of Jesus, the disciples, they believed them to be heretics. Why? Because they rejected Paul. And who came from the Nazarenes?
Where Jesus says Paul is his chosen instrument.
And the Ebionites continued with this belief that they rejected Paul as what? An apostate. He wants only evidence, only from the Bible. But I'm giving you a wide array. I'm giving you Acts, I'm giving you Galatians, I'm giving
bro,
you
you're
scholars
shaking.
like... Who's shaking? Who's shaking?
Yeah,
Nice try.
shaking.
I'm giving you evidence like James Cabell, Robert Eisman, even Bart Ehrman. In all scholarly circles, they acknowledge there's a rift between Paul and James. But unfortunately, some people may not be aware. We're not computers. It's not necessary for us to be aware of this stuff, but you cannot debate a position you do not know about. It's known in scholarly circles. If you check the incident at Antioch, read anything. If you need to read Wikipedia,
Make the argument
read
here.
Wikipedia. It's an argument. It's a disagreement. And you admitted this, and that's what the basis of this disagreement is. I don't believe Paul was an apostle. Clearly, the apostles didn't believe that Paul was an apostle either. They did not elect him to be an apostle. There are 12 thrones, Jesus says. 12 thrones to judge the 12 tribes of Israel, not 13. Thank you.
Okay, you do realize that Barnabas was an apostle as well?
I don't understand your point.
Yeah, well, you said 13. So there'll be more apostles than the 12. Anyway,
there's 12.
let me respond to what you're saying. I'm going to conclude. I'm going to wrap this up because we've been going for a long time, right? I think you've already made the concession anyway that Paul was an apostle.
No, I didn't.
No, I'll be honest with you.
All right, no problem.
I don't actually feel like I need to do more. I really don't. Like, he's already made a concession. He's already admitted that Paul was at that council and he was holding the apostles to the things that were set in that council. How can you do that if you're not part of the council, if he wasn't part of the council himself? Doesn't make sense. So by his own admission, he's included Paul as being a part of the apostles. That it doesn't make sense, for him to say that Paul wasn't an apostle and to make those claims. So you have to catch the Muslims out on this. They're trying to pick and choose where they want to attack Christianity, and they end up contradicting themselves. And here's one example of where this guy contradicted himself. I've made my point clear. You've literally proven that Apostle Paul is an apostle. Thank you very much. There's nothing more for me to argue. We can move on to the next topic.
Okay, so I'll make it clear because you didn't understand it the last 10, 20 times. Paul is not an apostle. Even if he was summoned to the council as he was, it means that he was just a participant. It does not mean that he is an apostle. The apostles rejected him. He still hasn't answered this. Matthias was chosen as the last apostle.
Participant.
Not Paul. Again, he hasn't answered that. James had the council of Jerusalem. He didn't know that James was the leader, but James is the one who gave the decree. And then the ones who come from this, the Nazarenes or the followers of Jesus, are the Ebionites. Historical evidence. They reject Jesus. The Clement homilies, reject Paul. Clementines, the homilies, they reject that. The preaching of Peter also is a rejection of Paul. There are many documents that show this a rejection of Paul in early Christianity, but I think we finished. Thank you very much. If you think that I think that Paul is still an apostle, I don't know what to say, but it's nice discussion.
Nice talking to you.